Chapter 21 Goodbye Yafei, making a shining debut. You are listening at novelfold.audio. The great elder, frantic, located Xiao Ning, grabbed Xiao Yu, and rushed him over to Xiao Zai's place. Grandpa, what's with the abduction? Xiao Ning asked, bewildered by his grandfather's sudden urgency. Didn't I tell you to apologize to Xiao Yan? Yeah, I did. Xiao Yan even said we were cool now. Xiao Ning was still confused. He'd done what his grandfather asked. Why was this a big deal again? And did you ask him to put in a good word for you with Xiao Zai? The great elder pressed. No. Xiao Yan said he couldn't do that and told me to handle it myself. Xiao Ning scratched his head, think about it. Xiao Yan got beat down, and Xiao Zai was just blowing off steam using Xiao Yan. So why would Xiao Yan suddenly praise Xiao Ning? Xiao Yan would look like an idiot. It was obviously impossible for Xiao Yan to vouch for him. If he wanted to befriend Xiao Zai, he needed to do it himself. Hearing this, the great elder got angry and blurted out, So, did you even try to find Xiao Zai? Yes, but I can't find him anywhere. Xiao Ning said, sounding a little hurt. Huh? The great elder grunted, puzzled. Grandpa, we're already at Xiao Zai's place. If you don't believe me, go knock. Xiao Ning pointed to the residence. The great elder eyed Xiao Ning suspiciously, unsure what he was up to. He straightened his robes, went to the door, and knocked. Silence. He's not home. Xiao Ning piped up, a touch of resentment in his voice. Xiao Zai's never around. I've tried finding him a bunch, but I never see him. I even checked the back mountain, but no luck. That place is huge. The great elder's shoulders slumped a little. Xiao Zai was the polar opposite of Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan was always holed up practicing. Xiao Zai, on the other hand, avoided his place like the plague. Xiao Yu, who had been watching this whole mess, spoke up. Isn't the coming-of-age ceremony soon? He'll be there. Even if he just pops in, he'll show up. We can find another chance to apologize then, the great elder realized. That's right. The three headed home. Soon, the family's coming-of-age ceremony began, complete with drums and loud music. The Xiao family's VIP guests came and were escorted to their seats. A beautiful and tall woman stood out from the crowd. Her grace turned heads, even those who pretended not to notice. Yafei smiled, effortlessly schmoozing with the important people of Wutan City. But while she made small talk, she scanned the crowd. Especially the young men of the Xiao family, she looked hopeful, but most of the Xiao family members had already arrived, and still no sign of the young man she sought. Yafei waved over a young member of the Xiao family. Excuse me, how much longer until the ceremony starts? I'd like to take a walk around the Xiao estate. Miss Yafei, about 45 minutes. Feel free to explore. A bell will ring before the ceremony. You can come back then, or I can show you around. Don't bother, I'll wander alone. Yafei smiled, declining. Her friendly smile made the kid feel like he was floating on air. Xiao Zai sat cross-legged on a stone platform, ending his training session. He clenched his fist, pleased at the surging power. Finally, a two-star fighting master. Xiao Xun'er, who was waiting for him, rolled her eyes. How long had it been? Brother Xiao Zai, if you didn't know better, you'd think you'd been stuck as a one-star for years. Huh, don't even. We broke through on the same day. You're already a 3-star, and I'm just a 2-star. Apples and oranges. I'm a fighter, you're a master. Stop whining and go wash up. Xiao Xun'er tugged Xiao Zai toward a hot spring pool. Hurry. I laid out a dress for you. It's the coming-of-age ceremony. You need to put in an appearance. Xiao Zai nodded and quickly washed in the pool. By the side of the pool, a dress was waiting for him. Xiao Xun'er stood outside, a faint smile on her face. She waited for the water to stop, then turned her head, her face hopeful. A figure emerged, wearing jade boots and a gold-trimmed white robe. Tall, handsome, he drew all eyes. Xiao Xun'er stared, speechless. In that outfit, brother Xiao Zhe looked totally different. Xiao Zhe touched his damp hair and glanced at Xiao Xun'er, helpless. Xun'er, is this a little much? Brother Xiao Zhe, it's the annual ceremony. It's okay to be a little extra. Xiao Xun'er looked him up and down. Brother Xiao Zhe was gorgeous. She stepped forward, took his hand, and smiled. Don't sweat it. Let's go, or we'll miss the ceremony. Hand in hand, they started down the mountain. As they ran, Xiao Zhe looked at Xiao Xun'er's clothes. She was wearing matching white and gold. This girl. Xiao Zhe said nothing and raced on with Xiao Xun'er. Huh? Isn't that? Xiao Xun'er suddenly spoke, but Xiao Zhe had already noticed. Remember? The person we saved that night. Miss Yafei. Xiao Xun'er exclaimed, and Yafei looked at them. Her eyes lit up when she saw Xiao Zhe. Compared to the shadows of that night, his outfit made him seem more vibrant. Even though she'd met many noble children, Yafei admitted that he felt different. Exciting, even. Miss Yafei. Meant to be, huh? Xiao Zhe stopped and smiled. Yafei was wearing a stunning dress. She knew how to play her strengths, and this dress made the most of her figure. Xiao Xun'er nodded politely to Yafei. I didn't realize the one who saved me was Xiao Zhe, the fourth young master of the Xiao family. I am so grateful, Yafei responded. They talked for a moment before Xiao Xun'er spoke up. The ceremony's about to start. We need to go. True. As a guest, I could miss it, but you can't be absent. They hurried to the venue, arriving as the bell rang. The young man was tall and handsome, radiant. The girl was beautiful, a future beauty, her eyes bright, a smile on her lips. Their matching outfits made them look like they were made for each other. And with the addition of the charming Yafei, they drew attention the second they appeared. Xiao Zhe grinned, feeling all eyes on him. Now he was shining. Chapter 22 Apology and VIP Card. Page 12. You are listening at novelfold.audio. The coming-of-age ceremony bell had just rung, and Xiao Zhe, Xiao Xun'er, and Yafei made a dazzling entrance. They seemed to be the main attraction, drawing everyone's eyes. Smiling, Xiao Zhe grabbed Xiao Xun'er's hand and headed for the area for the younger Xiao family members. Yafei, ever composed, returned to the VIP section. She was used to being the center of attention. Xiao Zhan, standing on the stage, cleared his throat to regain the audience's focus. Thank you all for joining us at the Xiao family's coming-of-age ceremony. As Xiao Zhan launched into his speech, Xiao Zhe's smile faltered. Long speeches, it seemed, were unavoidable. The Xiao family's core members, including the patriarch and elders, occupied the high platform. As a member of the main family line, he had every right to be up there, but Xiao Zhe wanted to be with Xiao Xun'er, so he went to the area for the younger generation, the actual stars of the day. The Xiao children celebrating their passage into adulthood, were in another area, getting ready for their test. Xiao Zhe scanned the crowd and spotted someone waving from a corner, pulling Xiao Xun'er along. He saw Xiao Yan grinning at him. Fourth brother, you're a lifesaver. Huh? Xiao Zhe was confused. Third brother, nobody's trying to kill you. What's up? You don't know. Before you got here, everyone was staring at me. Especially those VIPs. They were practically undressing me with their eyes. Xiao Yan shuddered. Thank goodness you showed up and diverted their attention. Huh, third brother, it's not that bad. Even if I hadn't come, once the ceremony officially started, they would have stopped. Xiao Zhe chuckled, trying to reassure him, while Xiao Xun'er stood quietly by his side. With Xiao Zhe, she was as playful and approachable as any girl next door, like a childhood friend. But around others, Xiao Xun'er was usually cold and aloof. Anyone who tried to get close would be met with a politely distant smile that kept them at arm's length. Xiao Zhe and Xiao Yan chatted while watching the ceremony. This year's event was pretty standard, with no unexpected surprises or exceptional talents. The tests were all unremarkable. Some kids passed the Dou Po test and were thrilled to continue their training within the Xiao family. Others failed and walked off stage dejected. Resigned to becoming peripheral managers for the clan, as the great elder's grandson, Xiao Ning's talent was decent enough to barely pass the test. After Xiao Zhe had beaten him to a pulp, he'd been hiding out at home, seemingly humbled. Fourth brother, did the great elder ever apologize? Huh? What's this about? Is the great elder mad at me? Xiao Zhe asked, surprised. Xiao Ning came to me to say sorry, and we buried the hatchet. Xiao Yan thought for a moment and then told the whole story. But he asked me to put in a good word for him with you, and I refused. I told him he had to apologize himself. I wouldn't know. I've been up on Back Mountain lately and haven't been home much. Ah, it sounds like Xiao Ning couldn't find you. He'll probably come looking for you after the ceremony. Just then, they saw an older figure approaching. Xiao Zhe, do you have a minute? I'd like to talk to you, great elder. Xiao Yan couldn't help but exclaim. I'm no longer the great elder. All right. Let's find somewhere quiet. Xiao Zhe wasn't worried. He was now strong enough to hold his own against the great elder and wasn't afraid of any tricks. They found a secluded spot, where someone was already waiting. Xiao Zhe's expression flickered. It was Xiao Ning. Xiao Zhe, my grandson had a run-in with you before, and I lost my temper and attacked you. Please forgive us, the elder said sincerely, looking genuinely apologetic. Xiao Ning bowed to Xiao Zhe repeatedly. Great elder, what are you talking about? Even though you've been temporarily removed from your position, your contributions to the Xiao family are undeniable. Xiao Zhe had expected something like this, but he hadn't expected the great elder to be so direct. He was willing to swallow his pride and say what needed to be said. They were all family, after all. No matter how big the argument, they should be able to talk it out, right? My issue with Xiao Ning stemmed from the humiliation of third brother. Now that third brother has no problem, I won't hold a grudge. Good, Xiao Zhe, you're so understanding. You really are the talented one who will lead the Xiao family to glory. The great elder was ecstatic, showering him with compliments. Xiao Zhe blushed. He'd always thought of the great elder as serious, but he had some serious flattering skills. Alright, great elder, now that we've discussed this, I have something else to do. I'll be going. In the end, Xiao Zhe couldn't compete with the old fox. It was no contest. The great elder could always find a way to flatter him from every angle. If he wasn't the great elder, Xiao Zhe wouldn't have known he had so many great qualities. As Xiao Zhe left, the great elder sighed in relief. Xiao Ning looked at his grandfather with admiration. Grandpa, I didn't know you were so good at praising people. Why have you never praised me? Hearing this, the elder frowned and whacked Xiao Ning on the head. If you had even a tenth of Xiao Zhe's dedication and accomplishments, I'd praise you all day long. The problem is, you don't. If I gave you a chance, you'd screw it up. Ow, Grandpa, stop. You're not exactly a genius to begin with, but if you keep hitting me, I'll become totally useless. Xiao Ning ran off, shielding his head. The great elder stopped. He really didn't want to beat his grandson into being a complete failure. Xiao Ning, you have to work harder and become someone talented. The little farce between grandfather and grandson came to an end. When Xiao Zhe returned, the ceremony had moved on to the next stage. Chapter 23 Xiao Yu with long legs. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Xiao Zhe, are you taking off on a big trip? The sudden news made Xun'er gasp. Where are you going? What brought this on? I'm not sure. Ever since I leveled up to Dou Master, I've had this itch to travel, and I can't shake it. Xiao Zhe explained, keeping it vague. Seeing Xun'er's confused look, he reached out and ruffled her hair. Don't worry, I'm strong enough now. As long as I'm careful and don't go looking for trouble, nobody can mess with me. This is so out of the blue. Xun'er said quickly. Besides, Canaan Academy's enrollment is just around the corner. Taking off now. That's why I'm going to talk to Xiao Yu, get the exact dates. Otherwise, this feeling will keep nagging at me, and I won't be able to focus on my training. Xiao Zhe's reasoning made Xun'er quiet down. This was about his training, and he wouldn't mess around with that. Okay, but, do you want me to come with you? Nah, I'm just chasing this feeling, I don't even know where I'm headed. Xiao Zhe shook his head. Of course, he knew where he was going, Qingshan town, bringing Xun'er along would just complicate things. Besides, roughing it won't be as comfy as staying here with the Xiao family. You're safer here. Seeing Xun'er about to protest, Xiao Zhe cut her off. I need to clear my head. I might come back way stronger. If you tag along, you might get left in the dust. Xun'er nodded silently, following Xiao Zhe close, her right hand clamped tight in his. Xiao Zhe sighed inwardly. The little fairy doctor was his choice. This trip to Qingshan town was a must. After acquiring the attachment binding, Xiao Zhe had carefully scouted the Xiao family. Plain and simple, Xiao Xun'er was the real deal here. Maybe later, Xiao Yan would get his mojo back with help from Yao Lao and become an alchemist, becoming a major player, too, but right now, he was just average. Basically, everyone else in the Xiao family was a nobody. He was already getting feedback from Xiao Xun'er, which was barely enough to be considered a golden legend. Looking at the powerful talents that can be obtained in the early stage, the little fairy doctor's poison body is definitely top-notch, and it is extremely easy to obtain. In a small town in the eastern part of the Warcraft Mountains, as for Queen Medusa's seven-colored heaven-swallowing python bloodline, she hasn't refined it with exotic fire to evolve her bloodline yet, and from the sound of the original story, what Queen Medusa eventually evolves into is also very random, not to mention the trouble that comes with Queen Medusa herself. He's just a Dou master right now. If he dared to wander into the desert, Queen Medusa could crush him like a bug. Qinglin was also a good choice, but she was too far away, and he might miss the Canaan Academy enrollment dates. All things considered, the little fairy doctor was the easiest to reach in the Jia Ma Empire. They were on their way to see the head elder when they ran into Xiao Yu at the crossroads. She was chatting and laughing with Xiao Mei, heading to the back mountain. Xiao Yu, hold up, Xiao Zhe called out, and the two stopped. Xiao Yu and Xiao Mei looked surprised to see Xiao Zhe and Xun'er. These two were the stars of the family. Why were they coming to find them? Xiao Yu stopped and watched Xiao Zhe approach. She'd seen him at the family gathering, and it had really thrown her. That shy kid was now a handsome young man. Xiao Yu had bumped into Xiao Zhe a few times when she was little. Once, when she was heading to the hot springs in the back mountain, she ran into Xiao Zhe. He had warned her to watch out for peepers. Thanks to Xiao Zhe's heads up, Xiao Yu stayed alert and didn't strip down completely in the hot spring, keeping an eye on things. She actually caught a peeping Tom, the kicker. The peeper was Xiao Zhe's own brother, the one who'd warned her in the first place. Xiao Yan. Xiao Yu found it funny at the time, that Xiao Zhe's good deed had ended up getting Xiao Yan in trouble. She'd been impressed by Xiao Zhe ever since. Even though she hadn't heard much about him after that, she still remembered him. Xiao Zhe, what's up? When Xiao Zhe reached Xiao Yu, he was immediately struck by her long legs. Xiao Yu's legs were definitely her most eye-catching feature, long, slender, and shapely. With the Canaan Academy uniform with a white background and blue edges, a large section of thigh was exposed under the skirt, and she was wearing long boots. All of a sudden, the long legs were highlighted. Cousin Xiao Yu, Xun'er and I are planning to enroll in Jiangnan College. I wanted to ask when Canaan Academy is coming to Wutan City. Xiao Zhe glanced at the long legs, then shifted his gaze to meet Xiao Yu's eyes. Legs are great, but don't get hung up on them. Hearing this, Xiao Yu breathed a sigh of relief. Even though her grandfather had told her that Xiao Zhe and Xiao Ning had buried the hatchet, she'd still been worried that Xiao Zhe would come looking for trouble. Just like her grandpa said, Xiao Zhe was a stand-up guy. Xiao Yu looked thoughtful, gently tapping her lips with her fingertips. Canaan Academy's enrollment is about a month from now. If you guys want to join, I can take you there. It'll save you a lot of trouble, and the person in charge is actually my mentor. Xiao Yu added, as if she was worried Xiao Zhe wouldn't trust her. She patted her chest for emphasis, bringing up her mentor. A month? Xiao Zhe thought for a moment. He had plenty of time. In the original story, Xiao Yan left Wutan City and headed east into the Warcraft Mountains, spending 5 days resting somewhere. Then he lugged Xian Zhongqi on his back for another 2 days to get to Qingshan town. If he went straight to Qingshan town, he might not even need 5 days. In that case, thanks a bunch, Xiao Yu. I had a run-in with Xiao Ning, but you're still treating me like this. You're a real one. Xiao Yu was offering to help, so Xiao Zhe didn't hesitate to butter her up. He'd learned these lines from the head elder, only now did Xiao Zhe realize that the head elder's smooth talk was actually useful. You never stop learning, do you? Hearing Xiao Zhe's sincere praise, Xiao Yu's smile widened. What woman doesn't like hearing she's a stand-up person? The atmosphere between them had been a little tense. Xiao Zhe's words were like WD-40, smoothing things over. Xiao Yu started to fill them in on what to expect during enrollment. Xiao Mei listened closely. She was also planning on going to Canaan Academy, so she wanted to know all she could. Soon they were getting along great, heading to the back mountain together for a dip in the hot springs. It was an adult ceremony that left them all sticky. Of course, Xiao Zhe stood guard outside. I beg you readers to keep reading. Now I recommend you to read it all. I beg you to use your little hands and pull it to the last page of the book. Thank you. Chapter 24 Disguise Mask, Sister Yafei. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Early the next morning, Xiao Zhe woke up with a sore arm. He remembered the three girls bathing together the day before, their playful splashing and giggling echoing from the hot spring. It was enough to stir up anyone's thoughts. Trying to regain his composure, he recalled boxing in the back mountains late last night after they'd all gone their separate ways. Xun'er and Xiao Mei are still just kids, but Xiao Yu, she's something else. So mature, so full of charm. He shook his head, trying to clear his mind. I told my dad yesterday I was taking a trip. He planned to swing by the Mitter auction house for supplies, then hit the road. He'd only told Xiao Zhan and Xiao Xun'er about his plans, not even mentioning it to Xiao Yu and Xiao Mei despite their lively chat the previous day. He usually kept a low profile anyway. A month away, and his family might not even notice. Xiao Zhe pulled out the ring Xiao Zhan had given him specifically for his trip. His dad said he'd used it when he was younger but had upgraded, so Xiao Zhe could have it. Inside was a deposit card, plenty of healing potions, and other adventuring essentials. Dad really came through. Once he knew I was serious about leaving, he spent the whole afternoon putting this together. Looking at the simple gray ring, Xiao Zhe felt a surge of warmth. It was nice to be cared for. Even though it was a basic storage ring, it still cost at least 70,000 or 80,000 gold coins. Almost the Xiao family's entire annual profit. He tucked the ring away, grateful. Storage rings were rare among low-level cultivators, and wearing one could attract unwanted attention. Opening the door, he found Xiao Xun'er waiting. Slim and elegant, like a budding green lotus. Brother Xiao Zhe, leaving so early? Now that I've decided, I want to get a head start and be out of Wutan City before dark. Hee, okay then, Xun'er will see you off again. They walked side by side, chatting and laughing, the air surprisingly free of sadness. At the gate of the Xiao residence, Xiao Zhe ruffled Xiao Xun'er's hair. Xun'er, keep practicing. Don't let me come back and leave you in the dust again. Humph. Don't underestimate me, brother Xiao Zhe. I might have caught up by the time you get back. Xiao Xun'er pouted, but didn't pull away from his touch. Alright, I shouldn't linger. Gotta go. Xiao Zhe waved, then turned and left. Xiao Xun'er watched him disappear, her red lips parting slightly. Mr. Ling, please watch over brother Xiao Zhe and make sure nothing happens to him. Yes, miss. Ling Ying hesitated, then agreed, adding cautiously, but miss, your safety. Don't worry. The Xiao family's safe for now, and my father left me ways to handle any ordinary trouble. Xiao Xun'er smiled, urging Ling Ying to hurry after Xiao Zhe. Feeling Ling Ying's departure, Xiao Xun'er looked into the distance, the direction Xiao Zhe had taken. Brother Xiao Zhe, safe travels. She turned and hurried back to the Xiao family grounds, ready to focus on her training. Meanwhile, Xiao Zhe went to the Mitter auction house in Wutan City and found Yafei, who had just woken up. Yafei stretched, yawning, her voice still raspy. I almost didn't believe it when my staff told me. Didn't expect it was really you, young Master Xiao Zhe. Huh, sorry to bother you so early, Miss Yafei. Xiao Zhe sat in the living room, watching Yafei emerge from the bedroom, a smile on his face. As a concubine, she naturally had her own suite at the auction house. Alright, Master Xiao Zhe, you came to me specifically, so you must need something, right? Yafei poured a cup of tea and placed it in front of him. That's right. I'm going on a long trip and was hoping you had some kind of disguise available, something affordable. Masks or whatever. Yafei looked him up and down, surprised he was setting off alone at such a young age. But she didn't cry, instead considering the possibilities, rattling off names and prices. Xiao Zhe listened carefully, then perked up, raising his hand to stop her. Could you show me the delicate mask? If Master Xiao Zhe wants it, I'd give it to you free. After all, you did me a great kindness. Xiao Zhe shook his head, smiling sincerely. I saved you because I didn't want to see an innocent person hurt, not for repayment. The VIP card you gave me is more than enough. Yafei gazed at the young man's earnest face and smiled sweetly. Alright. Soon, having freshened up, Yafei returned carrying a black wooden box. Inside was a leather mask. Master Xiao Zhe, you don't know delicate masks well, let me help you put it on. Sure, thanks, Miss Yafei. Yafei's slender fingers pinched the corners of the mask, carefully covering Xiao Zhe's face as she explained what to watch out for. The delicate mask costs 10,000 gold coins. It's not as cool or breathable as the high-grade ice silkworm masks, so it might feel a bit stuffy. Normal activities like washing and rubbing won't damage it, but sharp objects will. She casually listed all the precautions, like a caring older sister advising her younger brother before a trip. Xiao Zhe watched Yafei, close enough to see her perfect features, the faint, pleasant scent lingering in the air. Okay, it takes about an incense stick's worth of time for the mask to set. After that, you can move your face freely. Xiao Zhe nodded, waiting quietly for the mask to adhere. He sighed inwardly. If Xiao Zhan hadn't given him that deposit card, he wouldn't have been able to afford the 10,000 gold coin mask. Traveling costs money. After a short while, Yafei retrieved a mirror from her boudoir. Should be good now. Xiao Zhe took the mirror. A young man with rough skin stared back, making Xiao Zhe's already short stature seem even more stunted. Thank you, Miss Yafei. Xiao Zhe, we're practically friends already, and you saved my life. She hesitated, then blurted out, how about you let me be your sister, call me Sister Yafei and I'll look out for you. Her eyes were full of expectation, fixed on Xiao Zhe. Yafei. Sister. Xiao Zhe was taken aback. Wasn't this how his third brother was treated? He instinctively blurted out, Yafei immediately sat next to him, delighted. This handsome young man was endearing from any angle. That sisterly call sent shivers down her spine. Chapter 25 Blue-Feathered Demonic Eagle, the demonic beast is restless. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Yafei. Sis, what kind of deal can I get on this sweet roll with my VIP card? Xiao Zhe touched his face, pleased with how it felt. Bro, since you're calling me sis, I got you. Yafei leaned into Xiao Zhe, enjoying the feel of his young, strong body, and smiled sweetly. I can swing this. It's on the house. Nah, sis Yafei, I can't take advantage of you just because I call you sis. Makes it sound like I'm just using you for the money. Xiao Zhe refused. He had money, so he didn't need a handout. Besides, now that he recognized her as family, he didn't want to freeload off Yafei. Yafei looked at his stubborn gaze and paused. This little brother I just picked up is a hardhead. Alright, your VIP card gets you 20% off, but I'll bump it to 50%. 5,000 gold coins. That way, it's not totally free, and I get to treat my little bro. Xiao Zhe considered it, nodded, and handed over a card. Thanks a bunch, sis Yafei. Yafei smiled, took the card, and passed it to her assistant. Xiao Zhe chatted with Yafei for a while. Gotta play nice, just calling her sis got him a 3,000 gold coin discount, that's 2 monster feasts. These sis calls are pure gold. Soon, the assistant returned with his card, and Xiao Zhe got ready to leave. Sis Yafei, keep my trip quiet, okay? Cross my heart, Yafei said seriously, looking him up and down before opening her arms with a smile. How about a goodbye hug for your sis? Xiao Zhe was caught off guard, not knowing what to say. Yafei just walked over and gave him a bear hug. Too bad his face is in the way, but he sure feels Yafei's generosity. That the eastern part of the Warcraft Mountains, Xiao Zhe moved quickly through the woods, hearing sharp cracks behind him. A blue-feathered magic eagle was in hot pursuit. After leaving Wutan City, Xiao Zhe knew crowded places meant trouble, so he stuck to sparsely populated areas. He had a basic map marking a few locations in the eastern Warcraft Mountains, including Qingshan Town. Even in this world of magic, drawing detailed maps was a serious crime. Yafei had risked a lot to get him this simple one. Of course, avoiding people meant facing the dangers of the wild. The rough terrain was nothing to a Dou master, but the real problem was the beasts and monsters lurking everywhere. While traveling through the mountains, Xiao Zhe had accidentally provoked a second-level flying monster. The blue-feathered demonic eagle, *zap, starred at a light blue blast fell from the sky, cutting through the branches. Xiao Zhe put on a burst of speed. The spot he'd been standing in was blasted by wind energy. TSK. Does this jerk really think I can't take it? Xiao Zhe glanced at the eagle in the sky and ran deeper into the forest. The eagle circled, then flapped its wings and followed. Xiao Zhe slowed down, feigning exhaustion. The eagle didn't suspect a thing. It was used to prey of this level tiring out quickly. It was surprised this one had lasted so long. It lowered itself and unleashed another blast. Xiao Zhe pretended to barely dodge, rolling on the ground in a panic. The eagle pounced, aiming its golden talons at Xiao Zhe's head. One grab and it'd be game over. Xiao Zhe felt the pressure but stayed calm, a slight smile on his face. When it was close enough, Xiao Zhe flipped over and summoned a water mirror in his right hand. Water mirror shield. The oval water mirror blocked the claws but was easily pierced. However, it completely negated the wind energy covering the claws. The water mirror shield was a basic defensive technique, but it was useful. Xiao Zhe's heart raced as the claws approached, but his hands didn't hesitate. Blue sea whirlpool. Xiao Zhe poured his energy into the shattered water mirror, creating a huge vortex that covered several feet. He was thrown back by the force of the attack, but the eagle wasn't so lucky. The vortex spun rapidly, disrupting its flight. The high-speed water also contained blades. The eagle was soon covered in wounds, and the whirlpool was stained red. It opened its mouth, but seawater filled it. Fear filled its eyes as it looked at its prey. Didn't he run out of energy? Xiao Zhe stood up slowly. Exhausted? Just kidding. I'm regaining energy faster than I'm using it. Since becoming a Dou master, Xiao Zhe's energy vortex had been strengthened, improving his recovery. Under normal circumstances, he might not even be able to run out of energy. The blue sea vortex wasn't that strong, but Xiao Zhe's energy was high quality, and he had mastered the skill. Soon, the eagle died, its body shredded and mixed with feathers in the water. I can definitely handle a second-level monster now. I can take one down with a single burst. But level 3 monsters are a different story. Overcoming challenges is never easy. Xiao Zhe retrieved a light blue magic core from the water. Hunting monsters didn't guarantee a core. It was all luck. This was his first time finding one, which was a good sign. Lucky me. This core is worth thousands of gold coins. Xiao Zhe pulled out his map, climbed a tree, and surveyed the area. He was surprised to find he was close to Qingshan Town. *rumble star. Xiao Zhe felt the ground shake and saw a group of monsters running toward him. Attracted by the fighting? No. Are they running away? Seeing the fleeing monsters, Xiao Zhe decided to play it safe. It was unclear what they were running from. *, a high-level monster. If so, I'm joining them. *. Chapter 26 Double Feedback. The perfect poisonous body. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Xiao Zhe melted into the leaves, hiding his presence. The panicking monsters didn't even notice he was there. This was just the edge of the Warcraft Mountains, home to only the weakest, first-level monsters, basically just wild animals. Even a whole swarm wouldn't be a threat to him. What really bothered him was what had spooked them in the first place. Monsters are usually cunning and have a good sense of danger. What could have scared them this badly? Could it be a high-level monster from deeper in the mountains, out hunting? Usually, high-level monsters don't bother with the outer areas. The low-level creatures out here are basically worthless as a meal. After a while, all the monsters were gone, and Xiao Zhe didn't sense any immediate danger. Are these things just losing it? That he stayed put for another 15 minutes, realizing this wasn't getting him anywhere. Guess I'll just go around then. That Xiao Zhe dropped to the ground and checked his map. Qingshan town was just outside the area the monsters had fled from. Best not to be too curious in a place like this. Adventures are for other people. I'll stick to my system and get stronger that way. Xiao Zhe folded up the map and headed toward Qingshan town. Sure enough, there were no signs of panicked monsters anywhere along the way. Xiao Zhe breathed a sigh of relief but kept his eyes peeled. This was still the edge of the Warcraft Mountains, and you never knew when you'd run into something. He'd been unlucky enough to run into a second-level monster before. Usually, it's just wild animals and first-level monsters out here. Second-level monsters are pretty rare. That one was probably a flyer with a wide hunting range, which is why he'd stumbled across it. Suddenly, Xiao Zhe spotted a black palm print on a tree trunk. His senses went into overdrive, scanning the area for anything nearby. No monsters or people. He examined the print. It looked like a human hand, but he couldn't tell if it was male or female, and it didn't look like it was from fire-type energy, but something corrosive. Xiao Zhe grabbed a handful of weeds and carefully placed them on the print. Instantly, they turned black. He quickly shook the weeds off his hand. He shot out a layer of light blue dou qi from his hands to cover them, and then carefully observed his palms. Nothing. He sighed in relief. That was it. The print was from some kind of strong poison. Something this toxic near Qingshan town can't be a good sign. That he looked closer and saw that the prints went deeper into the forest. He checked the map again. The prints were heading right toward the area the monsters had been avoiding. Could this be related to the little medical fairy's poison body? Xiao Zhe hesitated, then decided to check it out. He hadn't sensed any residual energy from any fighters on the palm prints. The person who made them was probably just a regular person, not a cultivator. If it wasn't the little medical fairy, Xiao Zhe would have turned around and run, but he wasn't interested in fighting something that poisonous. Following the trail of prints, and the dead weeds, Xiao Zhe moved forward carefully, shielding himself with a thick layer of energy to keep from getting any on him. Soon, he reached a small valley. A new system notification popped up in front of him. Little medical fairy. Can bind to disaster poison body, medical skills, animal control skills, seeing. The system prompt. Xiao Zhe knew he was in the right place. The little medical fairy, suffering from her poison body, was in this valley. Of the bindable options, only the disaster poison body was light gold, the rest were white. Bai Zhe didn't know the system's exact ranking criteria, but it probably had to do with talent level, rarity, potential, and things like that. The best he had ever seen was the ancient clan's divine emperor bloodline in Xiao Xun'er, colored dark gold. The poison body of the little medical fairy was only the second gold he had seen. Xiao Zhe didn't hesitate and directly chose to bind to her. The host successfully bound to the little medical fairy's poison body. Xiao Zhe breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the system notification. The poison body might have its disadvantages, but its advantages were greater. In the original story, the little medical fairy had even surpassed Xiao Yan's progress. That should give some idea of how powerful it really was, and at that time, Xiao Yan had devoured 2 different kinds of strange fire. His training went up like a rocket, blowing past the geniuses at Canaan College. Despite all that, the little medical fairy had still managed to catch up. And he had multiple feedback options from the system. Maybe those disadvantages could be eliminated through the feedback rewards. Xiao Zhe looked at the little medical fairy passed out in the valley. Normally, the poison body wouldn't activate. Unless she took poison, that was. Then, the virulence would increase. but before the Izumo Empire incident, she had been reluctant to take poison. Maybe she associated it with causing disaster, Xiao Zhe thought to himself while looking forward to the next feedback. Once the poison body was activated, its power would increase, until eventually, even the poison body couldn't contain the poison within. The person suffering from it would be eaten alive. So, when this round was over, the poison body would be stronger than before. Xiao Zhe waited patiently, and soon enough, the system notification appeared again. The little medical fairy is absorbing poison, the poison is increasing, and the disaster poison body is increasing. Congratulations to the host for getting 100-fold feedback. The perfect poison body. Whoa, Xiao Zhe's eyes widened. A first-time bonus? He triggered 100-fold feedback right off the bat. He glanced at the little medical fairy. Still out cold. He quickly chose to receive the reward. If the system was calling it the perfect poison body, it must have eliminated any downsides. He was definitely taking it. Boom! Instantly. Xiao Zhe felt like he was witnessing the Big Bang, his body going through thousands of destructions, then being resurrected from the ashes. Ugh! His eyes snapped open, and he was instantly covered in cold sweat. The pain of destruction and the joy of recovery were etched into his soul. He knew, without a doubt, that it had all been real. So that's the poison body. Receiving the reward is intense. Good thing it was all crammed into a single moment, otherwise, I'm not sure I would have made it, Xiao Zhe said, relieved. After he calmed down, he realized that his energy cultivation had soared to 6 stars. 8-star fighter. The poison body is insane. Chapter 27 Little Medical Fairy, come with me. Please follow up on 3 more chapters. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Xiao Zhe unlocked the perfect disaster poison body, instantly boosting his cultivation to 6 stars and making him an 8-star fighting master. Even so, it wasn't over the top compared to how the poison body acted in the original story. Back then, the little fairy doctor perfectly condensed the non-poison body, immediately rocketing her cultivation 3 stars higher to become a 7-star Dou Zun. Compared to that, Xiao Zhe's improvement felt like a drop in the bucket. Of course, it had something to do with the fact that Xiao Zhe didn't have much poison in his system yet. After all, he hadn't absorbed any poison himself. His 6-star jump was all thanks to the little fairy doctor's feedback. Speaking of poison, isn't there a master right in front of us? Xiao Zhe's eyes lit up as he looked at the little fairy doctor lying in the small valley. He wondered what kind of fireworks would happen when 2 owners of such potent poison bodies got together. Could they achieve a method of cultivation where they devoured each other's poison, building themselves up in a crazy spiral to the heavens? But even if it were possible, the owners of poison bodies wouldn't dare try it, because the destructive power of the poison inside could grow so intense that even the poison body couldn't contain it, leaving the owner to suffer the agony of being consumed by 1,000 toxins. A slow, agonizing death. But Xiao Zhe didn't have to worry. He was the perfect disaster poison body. No matter how much the poison inside grew, the non-poison body could perfectly suppress it. Thinking this, Xiao Zhe immediately went to the little fairy doctor. Looking closely, he saw she was passed out on the ground, with a delicate face and an ethereal air about her. The white dress on the little fairy doctor's body was stained. But it couldn't hide her waist, so slender you could practically span it with one hand, radiating frailty. The little fairy doctor's 2 dark palms marred her overall beauty. Likely, it was ash left over from when her palms corroded tree trunks as she held on for support. Xiao Zhe pursed his lips and slowly pressed his fingers against the little fairy doctor's hand. A fierce poison surged from her fingers. The perfect disaster poison body immediately diffused the poison. Strangely, it transformed into fighting spirit. The fighting spirit in my body has increased, but not enough to advance. Xiao Zhe glanced at the little fairy doctor. Her vibrant red lips looked even more alluring against her colorful cheeks. The colors on the little fairy doctor's face haven't faded yet. She probably won't wake up anytime soon. Let's absorb some more poison. Xiao Zhe stopped testing carefully with his fingers and simply covered the little fairy doctor's palm with his own. He felt the aggressive poison trying to eat away at his palm. but the perfect disaster poison body resolved it all, turning it into fighting energy that flowed through his body. While the little fairy doctor remained unconscious, Xiao Zhe absorbed all the poison from both of her palms. Sweet. Just one step away from becoming a 9-star fighting master, Xiao Zhe mumbled to himself. He noticed the colors on the little fairy doctor's cheeks fading. Xiao Zhe quickly pulled his palm back, the little fairy doctor's hand twitched slightly, and she slowly opened her eyes, startled to see a strange man standing next to her. She immediately grabbed her homemade poison from her pouch, a powder that could instantly subdue a fighter. At the same time, she pushed off with her feet, trying to create distance between herself and Xiao Zhe. Xiao Zhe watched the little fairy doctor's movements calmly, his eyes fixed on the powder in her hand. He thought to himself, "This poison can instantly subdue a fighter. I wonder if it could help me take that final step and become a 9-star fighting master." The little fairy doctor snapped back to reality and remembered that her poison body had gone haywire. A flicker of worry crossed her eyes, previously so alert. "Are you okay?" Xiao Zhe couldn't help but smile at her words. She was still the kind-hearted little fairy doctor from the original story. Instead of immediately questioning a stranger who appeared by her side, she was worried about whether they had been harmed by her poison body. "Of course, I'm okay. I also have the disaster poison body, so how could I be afraid of poison?" Xiao Zhe said casually. Taking 2 steps back, the little fairy doctor's tense nerves relaxed a little, and the wariness in her eyes lessened. But when the little fairy doctor heard about the poison body of Hernan, she was stunned. She hadn't had any adventures yet, hadn't found the 7-color poison sutra, and didn't know that what she possessed was the poison body of misfortune. "You said my physique is called the Hernan poison body? You have it too?" That the little fairy doctor didn't care about being reserved anymore. Her poison body was her biggest secret. Now, someone had revealed that biggest secret, and the stranger in front of her had the same physique. Xiao Zhe thought for a moment, recalling the memories he had gotten from the perfect evil poison body. The Hernan poison body is a unique physique that can swallow poison and quickly increase its strength. The way to identify it is a colorful hidden line on the lower abdomen. The little fairy doctor's eyes flickered. As a doctor, she knew her body well. Of course, there was indeed a colorful hidden line on her lower abdomen. The little fairy doctor already believed Xiao Zhe 7 or 8 times over. What really convinced her was that Xiao Zhe was safe and sound by her side. She knew how terrifying her poison body was when it went wild. Xiao Zhe noticed the change in the little fairy doctor's eyes and kept talking. "As the poison in the body gets stronger, the colorful lines will gradually grow, all the way to the heart. And that's also a sign that the poison body of disaster has reached its peak. At the same time, the owner will suffer the pain of being devoured by thousands of poisons." Hearing this, the little fairy doctor trembled slightly. Xiao Zhe thought for a moment and added fuel to the fire. Once the disaster poison fully explodes, it can instantly turn an entire empire into thousands of miles of poisonous wasteland, and hundreds of thousands of creatures will die from the poison. The little fairy doctor bit her lip tightly, unable to stop the tears from flowing. "Is that my future? Becoming a great poison master covered in countless blood? If you hadn't met me, you might have become a great poison master." Xiao Zhe smiled, extending his right hand to the little fairy doctor, and said, "I can make you stronger and control the poison body at the same time." The little fairy doctor's eyes lit up, like a sudden ray of light piercing through the darkness, and she instinctively reached out to take it. When she realized it, she was already holding Xiao Zhe's right hand. The little fairy doctor quickly looked up at Xiao Zhe. Not long after her poison body went wild, ordinary people would die instantly if they touched it. That was different from just standing nearby. But Xiao Zhe looked calm. Now, the little fairy doctor fully believed that Xiao Zhe had the disaster poison body just like her. Why do you want to help me?" But even though the little fairy doctor was eager to control the poison body, she still couldn't believe that help would be offered for no reason. "Of course, I have my own purpose." Xiao Zhe paused deliberately when he said this. The little fairy doctor held her breath, curious about what Xiao Zhe wanted. "I want you to help me practice." "What?" "I don't want to search for poison and prepare it myself. We both have poison bodies. The poison produced by your poison body might be the best nutrition for mine. Xiao Zhe pulled the little fairy doctor to her feet, looked her in the eyes, and said seriously. Will you come with me? Chapter 28 Ji Shitang poisoned. Help out. You are listening at novelfold.audio. The little medical fairy pursed her lips, and tears welled up. What's wrong? You don't want to? Xiao Zhe asked, confused. He figured she'd just say no if she didn't want to. Why the waterworks? No, I do. She said quickly, shaking her head. My whole life, anyone who found out about my poisonous body ran away screaming. You're the only one who's ever accepted me. Xiao Zhe's smile faded. He reached out and gently touched her head, looking her directly in the eyes. Don't worry, he said sincerely. We'll get your poisonous body under control. Then no one will be afraid of you anymore. He promised solemnly. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. She was kind at heart and dreamed of becoming a pharmacist, but fate wasn't on her side. Still, she was determined to become a doctor, saving lives and helping the injured, working tirelessly to achieve her dream, but fate, it seemed, had other plans. A doctor who dedicated herself to healing was cursed with a poisonous body that could kill with a touch. Even when she didn't mean to, it unknowingly hurt the people she cared about. In the original story, she'd gone to the Izumo Empire and accidentally killed 2 old folks who loved her. They'd cared for her even as they died. That horrible experience shut her down completely. She'd come to believe she was a walking disaster. That's why Xiao Zhe wanted to take her with him. Not just because she could help him improve his skills, but because his own unique abilities could help her control her poison, preventing her from hurting others. He wanted to save her from that pain. Okay, so you're coming with me. Let's do this right. I'm Xiao Zhe, the 4th young master of the Xiao family from Wutan City. He knew she was willing, so he dropped the pretense. I can't exactly take off this disguise right now, it'll get damaged. We'll wait until we get back to Wutan City. I'm the pharmacist from Wanyazhai in Qingshan town, she replied. Little medical fairy. She looked at his weathered face, her brow furrowed. Should I call you Master Xiao Zhe from now on? Nah, we're gonna be friends. I'm not looking for maids or servants. Xiao Zhe shook his head, meeting her gaze. I want you to be a friend I can talk to about anything, a partner I can count on to fight by my side. A warm smile spread across her face, and she nodded enthusiastically. She'd been smiling a lot more since meeting Xiao Zhe, nodding a lot more too. She'd noticed he wasn't treating her like a subordinate. When he'd earned her trust, he'd helped her stand tall. He wasn't looking down on her anymore. That simple gesture had made a big impression. Just call me Xiao Zhe. We're probably the same age. This face is just a disguise, and it'll get ruined if I take it off, so it's staying on for now. She nodded obediently, studying his face closely. If he hadn't told her, she wouldn't have guessed it was a mask. She wondered what he really looked like, but she knew she'd have to wait. After that, the two got along much better. So, how did your disaster poison body suddenly explode? Did you deliberately ingest poison? Xiao Zhe asked. He thought she'd be more resistant to swallowing poison. He recalled her hugging the quilt and crying. No, I remember eating a box of pastries and then feeling something was wrong. I realized the poison was about to take over. I rushed out of Qingshan town and into the Warcraft Mountains by myself, and that's when I met you. Xiao Zhe considered the facts. Someone poisoned you, trying to kill you. And it was potent enough to overwhelm your own poison resistance. She nodded, a flicker of anger in her eyes. Who would do something like that? I haven't done anything to offend anyone in Qingshan town. Sometimes trouble finds you, even when you're not looking for it. He shook his head. That's why he kept his distance from people. Even someone like her, who dedicated her life to healing, had been targeted. You want to make whoever did this pay? Her eyes lit up, and she nodded eagerly. She was kind, but she wasn't about to let attempted murder slide. Then let's head back to Qingshan town and take a look around. Maybe we'll find some answers. Xiao Zhe took out 2 cloaks and handed one to her. Your clothes are a mess, and I don't have any women's clothes. This will have to do for now. Use the cloak to hide your identity. She took the cloak and wrapped herself up tightly. Also, don't call me by my real name when we're out and about. It can attract trouble, put my family at risk. It's best not to reveal my identity. She nodded. Then what should I call you? Just pick a code name. Master? Sure, that works. The two chatted as they made their way back to Qingshan town. As the little medical fairy talked, Xiao Zhe quickly narrowed down the possibilities. Wan Yazhai's main competition, shitang. After Wan Yazhai hired her, business had boomed, taking a huge bite out of shitang's profits. Stealing someone's livelihood was akin to killing their parents. It was no surprise shitang wanted to eliminate her. Arriving in Qingshan town, Xiao Zhe realized they didn't need to investigate much. The boss of Wan Yazhai was leading a crowd towards shitang, and a young man was kneeling beside him. The surrounding crowd was filled with anger. Xiao Zhe and the little medical fairy listened for a bit and quickly understood what was happening. After she became poisonous and left Wan Yazhai, her leftover pastries were discovered, and the source of the poison was quickly found. After some interrogation, the blame was placed on shitang. The boss of Wan Yazhai was livid. Other local mercenaries, who respected and admired her, had also joined the mob demanding answers from shitang. If they didn't get one, they threatened to tear the place apart. She had saved so many lives. The boss of shitang, a thin old man, seemed confident. You from Wan Yazhai? You're trying to frame shitang based on the words of that little brat. The boss of Wan Yazhai scoffed. We have witnesses and evidence. No amount of arguing will change that. If you don't give me an explanation today, I'm tearing down your shitang. That the crowd cheered in agreement. That's right. Trying to poison someone as kind and beautiful as the little medical fairy. You're heartless. The poor little medical fairy almost died because of you. We're here for justice. Then, a voice cut through the noise. If a doctor can be poisoned so easily, I doubt her skills are any good. She stepped forward, adding fuel to the fire. Chapter 29 Two Starfighters. One Finger to Kill. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Snake. Leader of the Wolf Head Mercenary Group. One of the top 3 mercenary groups in Qingshan town. He was a 2-star fighting master. Even though he'd been stuck there for years, regular mercenaries still didn't mess with him. Snake spoke, making it clear he was backing shitang. He stepped up to shitang's boss, letting his fighting master aura wash over everyone. The ordinary mercenaries nearby went silent, even taking a few steps back. Even those who'd been yelling about helping out suddenly clammed up, afraid of crossing Snake. They were just run-of-the-mill mercenaries. Offending Snake meant a hard life in Qingshan town. The owner of Wan Yazhai suddenly looked sick. Before, hiring the little medical immortal had boosted Wan Yazhai's clout, giving him the guts to talk about tearing down Jishir Hall, but with the Wolf Head Mercenary Group and shitang teaming up, Wan Yazhai was in trouble. Like I said, if she's so easy to poison, then this doctor's skills probably aren't all that. Snake sneered. He scanned the crowd with cold eyes. Those who met his gaze quickly looked away, earning him a snort of satisfaction. Under Snake's glare, Wan Yazhai's confidence deflated fast. Humph. That's a load of bull. Nobody can watch their back 24/7. People slip up. The owner of Wan Yazhai, face turning purple, retorted, just because the little medical immortal got poisoned doesn't prove anything about her skills. Besides, we have witnesses and evidence. Is shitang trying to pull a fast one? Wan Yazhai's boss clung to the proof and shot down Snake's words. The boss of shitang smirked, put his hands behind his back, and slowly walked over. He leaned in for a close look at the witness. Hey, he's from Wan Yazhai. Never seen him before. Who knows where you dug up this scapegoat? Probably beat him up and forced him to lie, claiming he's one of ours. The old man straightened up, saying calmly, this so-called witness is just your side of the story. Who knows if you two cooked this up? And as for the evidence, who can prove that poison came from our Jishur hall? Even if it did, maybe some shady character is trying to frame us. That when the old man said shady character, he shot a look at Wanyao Zhai's boss. Wanyao Zhai's boss looked like he was about to explode. Finally, the old man pretended to be all sad and sympathetic, saying, poor little medical immortal, poisoned to death, and now this whole circus. The old man's words sparked a buzz in the crowd. He might be right. Wanyao Zhai's boss could be staging the whole thing. That's garbage. Why would the owner of Wanyao Zhai poison the little medical immortal? She was bringing in tons of business. Come to think of it, everyone keeps saying she was poisoned. But where's the body? That the crowd was buzzing, and Xiao Zhe, halfway through listening, had already whisked the little medical immortal away from the drama. Both sides were digging in, so it was time to find some real evidence. Making potent poison wasn't easy, there had to be traces. While everyone was distracted by the argument, Xiao Zhe snuck the little medical immortal into Jishur Hall and started searching. After a bit, they stumbled upon a secret room. Inside were the leftover ingredients for the poison that hit the little medical immortal. Alright, that settles it. Xiao Zhe already leaned towards blaming Jishitang. Now that he had concrete proof, he wouldn't hold back. 2 years later, Xiao Yan would roll into Qingshan town, and Wanyao Zhai would be the only one left standing. So, following the original plot, the little medical immortal wouldn't have died from the poison, and both parties would have patched things up. Wanyao Zhai would have continued to grow with the little medical immortal's help, eventually swallowing or crushing Jishur Hall. As for why the wolf-head mercenary group was backing Jishitang, Xiao Zhe guessed that Jishitang, seeing their business tanking, had made a desperate gamble. They probably bribed the wolf-head mercenary group with a huge chunk of their profits to clean up the mess after poisoning the little medical immortal. Maybe they offered rare medicinal materials, or a cut of their business for the next decade. Faced with that kind of payoff, the wolf-head mercenary group couldn't resist. After all, mercenaries chased the cash. Because Wanyao Zhai, rolling in dough, wouldn't have given the wolf-head mercenary group that kind of deal. Xiao Zhe didn't care about the conspiracy. He just wanted to nail the people who poisoned the little medical immortal. He left Qingshan town with her and never looked back. Xiao Zhe walked up to Jishur Hall, where the argument was still raging. Heh heh heh. Save your breath. I found the poison that killed the little medical immortal inside Jishur Hall. A raspy, creepy voice came out of Xiao Zhe's mouth. He realized the Soul Palace Elder's laugh was something else. Xiao Zhe's sudden announcement shut everyone up. This unexpected third party grabbed everyone's attention. 2 figures in black cloaks walked in from the crowd. Xiao Zhe tossed the evidence on the ground. The boss of Jishitang looked panicky, while the boss of Wanyao Zhai seemed pleased. This mystery guy seemed to be on his side. The old man tried to keep up the tough talk, but Xiao Zhe cut him off. Save it. The little medical immortal helped me out, and now she's dead from poison. I'm here for revenge. As he spoke, Xiao Zhe stalked towards the old man. The old man saw the mystery man coming and backed away. He was just a bookworm facing a soldier, with nothing to say. Humph, resorting to violence because you can't argue your way out. The old man held his ground, then turned and yelled at Snake, who was watching the show. Captain Snake. You promised to step in. Relax, how tough can some masked guy be? Snake said confidently, his fighting master aura exploding as he charged forward with a nasty grin. Hiding your face. If you want revenge in your next life, think about your own strength. The surrounding crowd was slammed by the power and forced to fall back. They looked at Snake in awe. That was the power of a fighting master. Huh, I'll throw that line right back at you. Xiao Zhe stopped and smiled. Idiot. Snake roared and lunged, grabbing for Xiao Zhe's cloak to see his face. The crowd watched, excited. They pitied Xiao Zhe. Picking a fight with a fighting master was suicide. The water energy in Xiao Zhe's body surged, mixed with some poison, turning his light blue aura dark. Xiao Zhe's fingers shot out first. To everyone watching, it seemed to fall slowly but swiftly on Snake's forehead. That the world seemed to freeze. When Xiao Zhe pulled his fingers back, they were still clean, but Snake had a bloody hole between his eyes. The crowd was stunned. The two-star fighting master, killed with one finger. Chapter 30 Targeted Opportunities. A close hug. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Everyone froze. The silence shattered only when Moose Snake's body thudded onto the ground, snapping them back to reality. The surrounding mercenaries scrambled backward, putting as much distance as possible between themselves and Xiao Zhe. They were terrified this mysterious figure might decide to casually execute them too. After all, he'd killed the leader of the wolf-head mercenary group, one of the top 3, with a single finger. No way, that the old man shrieked, instinctively whirling around to bolt. Xiao Zhe flicked a glance at him and then kicked a nearby stone. The old man heard a whoosh behind him, and then a searing pain exploded at the back of his skull, plunging him into darkness. Look, I'm not some indiscriminate killer. I just wanted to avenge the little medical fairy. The ringleaders and their accomplices are dead, so that's the end of it. Of course, if any of you are itching for revenge on their behalf, speak up now. Xiao Zhe chuckled, the sound sending shivers down their spines. Like some creepy old ghoul, the mercenaries stood there mute. Who among them was close enough to those two to want revenge? Besides, they'd poisoned the little medical fairy. They pretty much had it coming, damn it all. While they were secretly pleased by this mysterious man's actions, the mercenaries were too scared to move. Just like before, they kept their distance, wary of him. They didn't dare say a word, lest they wind up with a finger pressed against their forehead. All right then, I'll be leaving. Xiao Zhe grabbed the little medical fairy, who was standing off to the side, and walked slowly out of Qingshan town, all eyes on them. The little medical fairy waited until they were well clear of Qingshan town before speaking. Xiao Zhe, you're so extra. Wearing a mask and a cloak and pretending to be an old man. The little medical fairy giggled. Better safe than sorry, especially when you're traveling. Cautious is the name of the game. Xiao Zhe shrugged and asked the little medical fairy. Need anything else? Nope, I'm good to go. I'm basically contracted by Wanyao Zhai. It's a win-win for both of us. The little medical fairy took off her cloak and shook her head. Xiao Zhe, heading back to Wutan City now. I've got some time to kill, so I'm in no real rush. When Xiao Zhe heard the little medical fairy's question, he figured she had something in mind. How about we gather some medicinal herbs in the Warcraft Mountains? That way we can whip up the poison when the time comes. Sounds good. Xiao Zhe agreed. He did a quick calculation. He'd only been gone from Wutan City for 5 days, leaving him with more than 20 days to spare. I don't have any training techniques that are particularly suited for you. When the time comes, why don't you join me when I enroll in Canaan College? With your current strength, you should be able to ace the test. Xiao Zhe led the little medical fairy toward the Warcraft Mountains, laying out his plans for her future. Even the Xiao family might not have poison-type fighting chi skills. Without bothering Xun'er, Canaan College seemed like the best bet. Seeing the little medical fairy happily gathering herbs gave Xiao Zhe an idea. In the original story, Xiao Yan and the little medical fairy stumbled upon a secret cave hidden on a cliff face while collecting medicine. The little medical fairy obviously hadn't found it yet. Going out to gather herbs meant they weren't far from Qingshan town, places rich in medicinal ingredients, cliffs, and caves. Those 3 things didn't grow on trees, especially around the Warcraft Mountains. Was this a guaranteed adventure? Little medical fairy, try to find a place with lots of medicinal herbs, preferably near a cliff. The little medical fairy tilted her head at Xiao Zhe's request. Xiao Zhe, looking for some action in the Warcraft Mountains? We're going to be hanging around the Warcraft Mountains for a few days anyway, why not see what we can find? That the little medical fairy nodded, carefully considering the surrounding area. If that's what you want, there are a couple of spots near Qingshan town that fit the bill. Let's go. After half a day, they arrived at a cliff overflowing with medicinal herbs. Unfortunately, even after using his soul perception, Xiao Zhe couldn't locate the hidden cave. Xiao Zhe, maybe you shouldn't get your hopes up. The little medical fairy said while carefully packing away the medicinal herbs she'd gathered. People in Dou Po continent often get lucky and hit the jackpot, but we can't count on that. Don't worry, I know better than to think I'm always going to get lucky. After the little medical fairy collected all the herbs she needed, they moved on to the next location. As they approached the second cliff, Xiao Zhe's eyes lit up. This was where his foresight came in handy. Even if he didn't know the exact location, as long as he had enough clues, he could sniff out an adventure. Little medical fairy. Yeah, the little medical fairy looked up from her herb gathering, a questioning look on her face. Luck's on our side, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. The little medical fairy blinked, then jumped to her feet. You found the adventure. Guided by Xiao Zhe, the little medical fairy spotted the incredibly well-hidden cave. This is amazing. We actually found an adventure. The little medical fairy bounced with excitement, grabbed Xiao Zhe's hand, and shook it, pointing excitedly at the cave. This was an adventure they'd found together. Xiao Zhe, I think my life has become more interesting since I met you, the little medical fairy said pointedly. That's great to hear, but you've gotta have fun and work hard to make your life even better. Xiao Zhe laughed and ruffled the little medical fairy's hair to calm her down. Next, they worked to figure out how to get down to the cave at the bottom of the cliff. They made a strong vine and tied themselves together. Xiao Zhe wrapped his arms around the little medical fairy's waist, pulling her close. We're about to jump, hold on tight. The little medical fairy mumbled something muffled and embarrassed. Okay. They weren't attacked by any monsters this time and arrived at the cave entrance without incident. Once on solid ground, the little medical fairy quickly scurried out of Xiao Zhe's arms, cheeks flushed, her face felt like it was on fire. Although she had a thing for Xiao Zhe, such close contact still made her shy, but what surprised her was that she didn't feel any hate in her heart. Xiao Zhe appeared calm, but he was a little flustered on the inside. After composing himself, Xiao Zhe went to the cave entrance. The light mist hung over the cliff, and the sunlight barely reached the area. Only the area near the cave entrance was visible, while further inside it was pitch black. Xiao Zhe made a makeshift torch and said to the little medical fairy, "You should come with me. I don't want to leave you outside and have you get snatched up by some unknown monster. I'm not that weak. I have poison powder for self-defense." The little medical fairy showed off her poison pouch but still followed him obediently. As she drew closer to Xiao Zhe, the little medical fairy's cheeks flushed at the thought of their previous close contact. Xiao Zhe chuckled, noticing her hesitant steps. Better safe than sorry. The two of them drew closer and entered the cave one after the other.